and I'm the supervisor of the Waterborne Diseases Unit at the Minnesota Department of Health. So given how much E. coli and beach monitoring and beach closures were in the news last summer, it's no big surprise that a lot of people are asking kind of what does this mean for the land of 10,000 lakes, where we all value our great swimmable waters that we have here. In the Waterborne Diseases Unit at the Minnesota Department of Health, we conduct surveillance for reportable waterborne pathogens, we conduct disease outbreak investigations, and we conduct studies on waterborne illness. We use this information that we get to provide education and outreach to not only keep our citizens and visitors healthy, but also keep our water healthy for everyone to enjoy. Swimmers can get a variety of waterborne illnesses in lakes, but the most common are infections that cause diarrhea, like Cryptosporidium, Giardia, E. coli, Shigella, or norovirus. Naegleria fowleri might be something you're less familiar with. It is often referred to as the brain-eating amoeba, but it causes a very rare but almost always deadly brain infection called primary amemic meningoencephalitis, or PAM for short. We have had 2 cases in Minnesota, both of which were caused at the same lake in Stillwater. Harmful algal blooms, something that often looks like spilled green paint or pea soup, is something that can also cause illness in our lakes. And that can cause kind of multiple symptoms for people, something like respiratory symptoms or diarrhea or rash, kind of a number of different manifestations. So kind of when we talk about diarrheal illnesses, since they're the most common and kind of the ones that hit the news a lot, we often get the question of like, well, how would you get a diarrheal illness if we're off swimming in the water? And how do they even get in the water? Well, the truth of the matter is everybody has kind of fecal material on their bottom at any given time. And that's really gross to think about, but that's the truth. So everybody has about 0.14 grams of feces on their bottom at any given time. And if we don't know what that is, because who knows what 0.14 grams is, it's about the size of a nerd candy. And that's what's pictured here. If you're a Nerds candy lover, I apologize. It may not be your favorite candy after this. But you can see that, they kind of all come in all different colors and sizes. And that's kind of like all the different swimmers that are entering the water. And so when somebody that is ill with diarrhea enters the water, that amount of fecal material contains millions of germs and it's washing off into the water. And then everybody else that's swimming in that water is unintentionally swallowing the water. It's not like we're going in the water wishing to drink the water. It's just that we unintentionally swallow the water, and with that, we unintentionally swallow up everybody else's germs that went in the water with their nerds. So along with kind of all of that other stuff that I talked about that we cover in our Waterborne Diseases Unit, we also cover the Lake Superior Beach Monitoring Program. As part of this program, we monitor 38 beaches along Lake Superior. It is the only beach monitoring program that is conducted by the Minnesota Department of Health. It is conducted as part of the National Beach Act, which is federally funded. So a little bit about beach monitoring in Minnesota. It is at the discretion of the entity that is responsible for the beach. This might be the city, the county, the park district. Basically, whoever owns the beach gets to decide what is done with it as far as beach monitoring. This includes the frequency of monitoring and the criteria that is used for issuing an advisory. The goal of beach monitoring is to help determine if the beach water is safe for recreational activities and to minimize the risk of people getting sick. When we go out and do beach monitoring, basically a small water sample is collected at the beach. The results are available the next day, and an advisory is then issued and the beach is closed if the E. coli levels are too high. The beach will reopen then when the E. coli levels are acceptable. So what exactly is E. coli in water when we're talking about at the beach? So it's a sign that there could be fecal contamination in the water that could make people sick. It is found in both humans and animals. But when we talk about it, we need to understand that there are hundreds of different kinds of E. coli out there that could be found in lakes that do not make people sick. There are simply just a handful that are actually capable of making people sick. And when we test for E. coli, we're testing for all of the different kinds that are out there, the ones that would not make people sick and the ones that could make people sick. High levels of E. coli indicate that germs that could make people sick might be in the water. It does not mean that those germs are in the water and people are going to get sick. It is simply the indication that it could be there. Beach monitoring is far from a perfect science, though. But unfortunately, it's the best science that we have available to us right now. But it is unlikely to detect the ill swimmer that enters the water. And so that is exactly the case like in Lake Nokomis last summer. That was a pathogenic E. coli. So that's one of the few E. colis that really we worry about and that can make people sick. And unfortunately, in that outbreak, we had 69 people that we identified that did get sick. And in that outbreak, 1 in 4 people that we interviewed that were a result of this outbreak, which included both the people that work at the beach and the people that were swimming there, reported that they continued to swim while they were sick with diarrhea. It goes to the case in point of, you know, the nerds that are on us. If we're sick with germs and we're getting in that water while we have something that we can spread to everybody else that we're swimming with, we can make everybody else sick too. Similarly, we had a large outbreak at Lake Minnetonka in the Big Island area over the 4th of July holiday, where 198 people became sick with a viral illness. But this is why it's so important that we provide education and outreach to all of our swimmers, regardless of whether they are at a beach that is monitored or not. We talk about how they can stay healthy at the beach, and also how they can keep the beach healthy for everyone else who is enjoying it. We put out these messages to the public on our website, through our social media channels, and through the media and local partners. So when we talk about being at the beach, we talk about how we can minimize the risk of our illness, but then we also talk about how we can keep it healthy for everyone else. So when we talk about for ourselves, we talk about not swallowing the water. We talk about showering after swimming for ourselves. We talk about avoiding swimming after a heavy rain event, since that can allow all of the contaminants that are around the lake to wash right in. Avoid swimming at beaches where you can see discharge pipes. They do exist, as much as we wouldn't like to think about that. There are many beaches out there that have discharge pipes at them. And avoid swimming if you see a blue-green algal bloom. We don't know that it would have a toxin that could make people sick, but we use kind of the little quip, if in doubt, best keep out. But then kind of what can we do to help keep the water healthy for everyone else out there? Well, most importantly, stay out of the water if you have diarrhea. This seems kind of like a no-brainer, but as our Lake Nokomis outbreak illustrated, people don't stay out of the water if they are sick. And we need to do a better job of making sure that everybody understands that kind of we all play a role in keeping the water healthy, and that we all share the water and the germs in it with everyone else who's out there. That we shower before we go swimming for everyone else, to help wash off all of the germs that are on us so that they don't go in the water with us. That we take frequent bathroom breaks, especially if we're swimming with young children. Waiting to hear someone say, I have to go to the bathroom, is often really kind of too late. That we change diapers frequently and away from the water. That we dispose of trash properly, including boat waste. Improper boat waste disposal can often lead to large issues, as could potentially have even been the cause of our Lake Minnetonka outbreak. That we maintain septic systems, and they don't encourage waterfowl by feeding ducks, geese, or other birds. Changing climate conditions are a reality, as much as things like Naegleria fowleri, or the brain-eating amoeba that I mentioned earlier, that thrives in warm conditions. And kind of the dog days of summer are where we would see it be a greater risk as temperatures rise and water levels lower. And things like harmful algal blooms also. They are a reality in Minnesota lakes. In Minnesota, we have no centralized location for beach monitoring results. Additionally, we have no centralized location for alerts in place at a beach, such as a pollution spill, or if there was a harmful algal bloom that had been noted. And there is no system for evaluating monitoring results to determine best practices. As I mentioned earlier, that it is at the discretion of whoever is responsible for the beach, including the frequency and the criteria that are used. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. I noticed on slide 12 you're mentioning avoid swimming after a rain event. Is that telling me that there's a lot that comes down through the storm sewer systems that we have in place throughout the metro area? Is that one of the contributing sources?
Mr. Chairman, so Kind of following a heavy rain event, kind of everything that is around the water has the potential to wash into the water with it. So that could be through our storm system. It could be kind of in the surrounding area, and even just in the perimeter right around the beach. And so there are varying opinions on this. Some say following 24 hours, some say 48 hours following a heavy rain event that we would avoid swimming. And we kind of use that at the discretion of people. That we would say heavy rain because people don't often check, to say like, is it an inch, is it 2 inches? And so we would say a heavy rain so that everything can dilution is the solution to pollution, especially when we talk about like our swimming beaches area. So we need to allow it to kind of disperse the area.
Okay. And then also, I noticed that you'd mentioned climate change, because I noticed that in terms of the number of lakes that we had this past year were quite a bit more than I've seen in the past. So is this a trend that we're probably going to be seeing more of? And also on top of that, the question comes in is, this is only a limited number of lakes that we're seeing testing done in the metro area, because they're the ones with swimming beaches at certain levels that the beaches decide to test. So is the problem a lot bigger than we are seeing just at the swimming beaches?
So, Mr. Chairman, with there being no statewide centralized system to this, I can't tell you what the trends are. There isn't a way in which we can tell you that at this point. There is no way in which that is monitored right now. With climate change, with their potential for heavier rains, other conditions, that certainly is a possibility, but I can't speculate, and I don't know what the data, would tell us. The only data that we have is based on our Lake Superior monitoring program. Those numbers certainly have increased in recent years. However, our summer of 2019 was actually, we had lower advisories in 19 than we have had in the last 5 years. So that was kind of an anomaly, but Lake Superior is a very different body of water than our inland beaches, particularly here in the metro area. Also, beach monitoring and whether it is done, we have many monitored beaches here in the Twin Cities metro area, but that is certainly not the case when you look at greater Minnesota.
Okay. Thank you. I see we're up at the end of our time for today. I want to thank you, Ms. Robinson, for coming in today to present to us.